Lisa and Mark moved into the old house Mark had inherited from his uncle. They never imagined silence could feel so heavy. The property sat on the edge of the North Yorkshire moors, surrounded by gnarled trees and a mist that never seemed to lift. The locals called it Crow's Hollow, though no one could explain why. The house itself was ancient, stone walls streaked with moss, windows that seemed to watch, and a smell that clung to everything: damp wood, cold stone, and something faintly metallic. That first night, Lisa heard a whisper echoing down the hallway. She thought it was Mark, but he was fast asleep. The whisper was soft, almost childlike. It said, "Don't open the door." But which door? The next morning, they explored the cellar. Beneath the creaking floorboards, they found a heavy iron door embedded in the stone wall, sealed with 3 rusted padlocks. Mark, ever curious, ran his fingers along the metal. Looks like it hasn't been opened in decades. Lisa felt a chill. Let's leave it. We don't need to know what's behind it. That night, the whisper returned. Louder, closer. Don't open the door. Don't open the door. Lisa woke drenched in sweat, heart racing. Mark wasn't in bed. She found him in the cellar, standing before the iron door, crowbar in hand. "I can't sleep," he said. "I hear something behind it, like it's calling me." Lisa begged him to stop, but Mark's eyes were glazed, his voice distant. With a sharp crack, he broke the first padlock. A scream erupted from the walls. Not human, not animal. Something old. Something buried. They fled the cellar, but the house had changed. The portraits on the walls now bore unfamiliar faces. The staircase creaked even when no one walked it, and the whisper was everywhere. Mark didn't speak the next morning. He sat at the kitchen table, staring at the cellar door. His knuckles were bruised. The first padlock was gone. Lisa tried to talk to him, but his voice was distant. "It's not locked anymore. It's waiting." She checked the cellar herself. The iron door stood silent, 2 padlocks still intact. But something had changed. The air was heavier. The stone walls seemed to sweat. And the whisper, it was no longer pleading. It was inviting. That night, the second padlock broke. Lisa woke to the sound of metal snapping. She rushed downstairs. Mark was gone. The cellar was open. The iron door now had only one lock. Behind it, something moved. Not footsteps, not breathing, a slow, wet dragging. She screamed for Mark. No answer. The next morning, he returned. His clothes were damp, his eyes bloodshot. He said nothing, just handed her a photograph. It was old, faded, a child standing in front of the house. But the child's face was blurred, not by age, by something deliberate, scratched out, and behind the child, the iron door was wide open. Lisa demanded answers. Mark whispered, he was the first. The house remembers. That evening, the final padlock fell. Lisa didn't sleep. She sat in the living room, clutching a flashlight. The whisper had grown louder. It filled the house, overlapping voices, like a crowd murmuring behind a wall. At 3:17 a.m., the iron door creaked open. She crept down the stairs. The cellar was freezing. The door stood ajar. Inside, only darkness. But something was there, breathing, watching. She turned to run, but the cellar door slammed shut behind her. In the pitch black, she heard Mark's voice. But it wasn't his. It was layered, distorted.
You opened it. Now it opens you.
The flashlight flickered, then died. And in the silence, the whisper became a scream. The scream echoed through the cellar, then vanished, as if swallowed by the stone. Lisa stood frozen in the dark, the dead flashlight still clenched in her hand. Her breath came in short, panicked bursts. The air was thick, humid, and wrong. She could feel it pressing against her skin, crawling into her lungs. She didn't dare move. Then, a sound. Not footsteps, not breathing. A slow, wet dragging, somewhere beyond the iron door. She turned toward the stairs. The cellar door was shut. No light seeped through the cracks. No sound from the house above. She was alone. Or not. The whisper returned, but it wasn't pleading anymore. It was laughing. Lisa ran to the door, pounding on the wood, screaming for Mark. No answer. She clawed at the handle, twisted it, kicked it. Nothing. The door wouldn't budge. Behind her, the dragging grew louder. She turned. The iron door was wide open. Only one padlock remained, hanging uselessly from a broken chain. And in the doorway, something stood, or tried to. Its shape was wrong, bent, twisted, like it had forgotten how to be human. Lisa backed away, heart hammering. "Mark!" she screamed. The thing moved. Not toward her, but toward the stairs. It was going up. Lisa didn't chase it. She couldn't. Her legs refused to move, her breath caught in her throat. The thing had climbed the stairs like it belonged there, like it remembered the way. She waited in the cellar, listening. No footsteps, no screams, just silence. Then, the door creaked open. Mark stood at the top of the stairs. His face was pale, his eyes glassy. He didn't look down at her. He just said, "It's in the guest room." Lisa climbed slowly, flashlight still dead in her hand. The hallway was darker than it should have been. The windows were covered, not by curtains, but by something thicker, something that pulsed. The guest room door was ajar. Inside, the air was colder. The bed was untouched. The walls were damp. And on the floor, a trail of water led to the closet. Mark didn't follow her in. She stepped closer. The closet door was open. Inside, a child's shoes, a small coat, and a photograph, the same one Mark had given her. But this time, the child's face wasn't scratched out. It was missing. Just gone. Lisa turned to Mark. Who was he? Mark didn't answer. He just whispered, "He's not alone anymore." Lisa stepped into the guest room, the air clinging to her skin like damp cloth. The cold was no longer just physical, it was ancestral, as if the room had been entered of warmth generations ago. The bed sat untouched, its sheets stiff with moisture. The wallpaper had begun to peel, revealing veins of black mold beneath. And on the far wall, opposite the door, hung a mirror. It hadn't been there before. Tall, narrow, framed in tarnished brass. The glass was warped, as if the surface had been stretched too thin. It didn't reflect the room. Not exactly. It reflected something deeper. Lisa stepped closer. Her own image stared back, but not quite. The woman in the mirror was her, but older, hollow-eyed, lips parted in a silent scream. And behind that reflection, the room was different. The bed was gone. The walls were cracked open. And in the corner, something moved. Bent, watching. She reached out, fingertips grazing the glass. It was warm. Behind her, the floor creaked. She turned. Mark stood in the doorway, his face pale, his eyes unfocused. He didn't speak. He didn't blink. He simply stared at the mirror. Lisa whispered, "What is this?" Mark stepped forward, slowly, as if drawn by gravity. "He remembers you," he said. She backed away. "Mark, don't." But he was already at the mirror. He raised his hand. The glass rippled. And then he was gone. No sound, no flash, just absence. Lisa screamed, lunging forward, pounding on the frame. The mirror was solid again, cold. Her own reflection returned, but now she was alone. The room exhaled, a long, wet breath that echoed through the walls. Then silence. The flashlight in her hand flickered once, then died.